Hello. Right, adding everybody in.
Right.
Thanks for joining us today. Sorry, 2 p.m. is kind of a random time. We're super busy on Wednesdays, so we just picked a time. But we are going to get started very soon. So if you want to leave in the chat, I want to know where you're from, and I want to know what you're doing with meat birds, if you're raising them currently, if you plan to raise them in the spring, if it's part of your like 2, 3, 5-year plan. I want to know what's going on with you and the meat birds. Okay. Looks like people are coming on. Alberta next year to plan meat birds. Okay. I also want to know too, like if you've ever done meat bird. Well, you probably haven't. That's why you're in this class. Do you have any experience with them?
Oh, Ashland, Idaho.
But it'll be in 2 years. Okay, perfect. So I've seen a lot on Instagram that it's mostly like I'm doing it next season or it's in our 2-year plan. So that's great. That's really who we're looking for to help. You can always learn if it's in like way down the road, but you kind of want to get closer to the time. So hoping for next spring. Perfect. Chickens for eggs, not yet processed. Okay, I love that. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started right away. My baby's asleep, so I'm hoping that he'll stay asleep for this. If not, we'll have a slight interruption and Kay will have to take over. So we have to sit really close together because when the replay shows, it's like a circle, and most of the time you just see the empty space. And so we're trying to like sit in so whoever catches the replay doesn't have to see nothing. So anyways, we are talking all about today how to get started with raising and processing meat birds yourself. And so today we're going to talk about why you should raise the meat birds, having the right mindset to raise them, which breed is right for you, raising in the brooder, raising in your barn or a tractor, and then why process yourself versus a butcher. So you are in the right place if you want to learn how to raise meat birds, either next season or within a couple of years. If you're currently raising meat birds, if you want to learn to process them yourself, and if you want to raise them but utilize a butcher, we're gonna kind of talk about that as well. We're obviously for doing it ourselves, but we'll talk about kind of how to utilize the butcher too. There's nothing wrong with it. No. You are in the wrong place if you have no plans to ever raise meat birds. We don't want to waste anybody's time. You're raising other livestock besides chicken, and you're learning about processing. It's completely different. So this is strictly meat birds. And then if you want to learn how to raise laying hens, this is not the course for you because they are completely different than the meat birds. So if that's what you're strictly here for, you are in the wrong place. You're welcome to stay, but that's not what we're talking about. So we don't want to waste anybody's time. We will be talking a little bit about our course that we just launched here at the end of it. This is the price, all that's included. We're going to do a bonus for the first 10 people that you'll receive a 1-hour Zoom call with us to discuss anything regarding raising and processing. We can help you, help map things out, anything you need. It will be a group call with the first 10 people. So just keep that in mind. Most of you probably know who we are, so we're going to keep it really short and sweet to the point. So we're Jordan and Kay. I'm Jordan.
I'm Kay.
And we are mother and daughter-in-law, and we love helping people become more self-sufficient on their homestead. So we grow a garden. We've done pigs for meat, chickens, and turkeys for meat. So a little bit about our chicken story. So why don't you tell this story, Kay, because it really pertains to you.
Yeah, so our youngest daughter, Holly, entered high school and joined FFA. She'd been in 4-H and now is FFA because she's high school. Anyway, she comes home one day, she goes, Mom, I get some chickens, some meat chickens. Oh, I said, okay, well, and she said they're free. I said, okay, we'll get 25. So we started with 25 when we raised them just in a little, just like a little cage area that Jeff made in the barn, in the pole barn. So there was cement underneath and we just raised them in there. And my girlfriend said, hey, there's a guy that does these up at Linden Meats on Saturdays. He's like $3 a bird. Great. So we hooked up with him and he processed our birds, and that was great. So the next year we got 50. And this guy lost the facility and couldn't do the birds anymore. And so we were like thinking, well, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? Luckily, our neighbors had some friends that were in this co-op that we could join, and you could get the equipment like $10 to join this co-op and $5 to rent it. It was great. And so I thought, okay, well, we're gonna do it. And so I started scouring YouTube on how to eviscerate, and process the birds. Basically, I mean, Bryce had to watch how to dispatch and all that kind of stuff. And I watched over and over and over and over, and it was just like, this is the only video I could find.
10 years ago, there was
Yeah.
not a lot on YouTube, especially this topic.
Mm-hmm. And I think I even had our phone up there. I had to watch a couple times again while I did it because I didn't know what I was doing at all. So anyways, did that. The next year we got, I think, 75 birds, and the next year we got 100. You could get up to 100. I said, we'll get 100 this year. But every year we raised them in the barn, and the second and third and fourth year we raised them in the horse stalls. We had 2 stalls side by side, and so we could separate them once they kind of got out of the brooder. And then I think we kept raising them in there for a few more years, and finally got some chicken tractors built. And I just said, we gotta get these chickens out of here because this is too much with this many chickens. But anyways, so every year I'd watch that same video, give myself a refresher on how to eviscerate the chickens. And finally it just, clicked and clicked and clicked. But I wish there was something that was more in depth where you watched the video, right?
I've seen the video and it is horrific. It is like not detailed, and there's just it's not a good teaching video.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how did you even learn?
I don't even know. Now it's just second nature to me. And we know that you can have that too by this course.
Yes. So with that, eventually Kay got better year after year practice, but you were constantly stressed because there was no good resources.
That's right.
But after a couple of years, we started having family help out, and friends came out to help us as well. And this is important to note because it made our process smooth and efficient. So we really, really learned how to become a fluid workspace.
Yes.
And it just there was no stress involved anymore.
Right.
Which was huge coming from the first few years when you're like, I don't know what to do. So, and then in 2020, we actually had helped some local people, that's who are in this picture, do their processing because their butcher quit on them. Literally, like, she's like, I need these birds processed.
Yeah.
She's like, can you help me? And I'm just like, I told Kay, I'm like, do we help her? Like, she's in such a bad position right now because of the time and the money that you put in. And so we're like, yes, you can come out. She only had 40 birds, which is totally, totally doable for us. We had been doing it for maybe 6 years at this point. So it took us like an hour to teach her how to do it. 2 hours, we were completely done. And so, we that's really when the spark ignited in us, and we're like, oh my gosh, people don't know this and people want to learn, because she was like, I want to learn, like, can I help you and all that stuff. So luckily we were to help them, and now she's a great friend.
Yeah, she's a great friend.
So then that's the same year we started sharing on our Instagram. But you can only show so much because you have a lot of people on there that do not like this lifestyle, and you can get your account banned, and we didn't want to do that. So we just shared a little tiny bit of what's going on, but the response was so much. They're like, I need to learn how to do this. I want to learn how to do this. Can you teach me? So that's where we got the idea to host 3 in-person workshops this summer. People want to learn. Well, unfortunately, not everybody can. Sorry. Can you go out, please? Not everybody can come out to our farm and do this. And so people were asking, can you do something online? Because I can't attend it in person. And so that's where we are today, is we've got this online course that we are passionate about getting to as many people as possible so that they can learn these skills. So that's where we are now. We want to get you set up for success. We don't want you to struggle like Kay did. And we know that by learning these skills before your processing time, then you're going to be able to apply them and do it just effortlessly. So let's get started right here. So the first thing we want to talk about is why you should even raise meat birds. And now you all want to raise them. That's why you're in the course. But it's important to remember these things. The first thing is, do you want to talk? I'm a talker, so I always like hog the conversation.
It doesn't matter. Well, one thing, you have control over their diet, living conditions, and their welfare. Cost savings, it can save you money in the long run after initial setup and your startup and all that. Eventually it could be covered completely, or even you can make money living this way.
I want to talk about that. I mean, ultimately, if you're like, I'm going to raise chickens because I'm going to save money from the grocery store, you're probably not. However, just to be completely transparent, we did our workshops, and the cost of the workshops and the work that we put into it covered the cost of our birds and then some to raise them completely this year. So our meat sources were covered completely this whole year. So when you learn these skills, you can then teach others, because so many want to learn, and you can host your own workshops and teach, the neighborhood. You don't have to put on a big production, but it's something to keep in mind that you can do that too. We didn't do it specifically for that. It just kind of turned out that way.
Yeah.
That way we're like, oh wow, our whole chicken were actually covered for the whole year. Our meat source was covered. It also gives you a connection to the food source. So you're involved with every step of raising and processing. And I don't know about UK, but when I'm eating dinner like a chicken, I'm like, oh my gosh, I know that this chicken never left our yard. Yeah. And I know every day how it lived its life. Yeah. And you just don't get that anymore.
No.
So to be connected to your food and to what you're doing is really such a neat experience.
Yeah. And then remember about the environmental impact it could have. You can incorporate animal grazing, which improves soil health, and you can lower your carbon footprint by raising these birds on your own.
Yep. You limit the packaging, the truck traveling,
right.
From the farm to the processing facility, from the facility to the grocery stores. They never leave your yard.
That's right.
I don't know. It's just really cool to think about.
Yeah.
Think about that. So the next thing we want to talk about is how to have the right mindset. Let me know if the mindset is a struggle for you. And I'm talking about like the butchering, because the most common thing that I hear is, I cannot do the butcher. I cannot slaughter these little chicks. So I'm going to tell you a story. That's me a couple years ago with that little baby chick. And my very first year, I went up to my father-in-law and I was like, I was holding it. And I'm like, how do you do this? How do you take this little chick and then butcher it and then eat it? And he was like, well, first of all, you're not eating the little tiny chick, which does help, in the grand scheme of things. You're not butchering these little tiny fluffy things. He's like, but these birds are bred to be meat. And what he means by that is that they do not live much past the 8-week mark. If you're feeding them like you feed a meat bird, they do not live much past that. And they die off. Like you're not going to save their life. Like, oh, I'm going to just get Cornish cross so people can't butcher them. They end up dead. Eventually, within a few weeks after you would initially start processing. So when he told me that, he's like, you are not respecting the bird by not utilizing it for its purpose. So to give utilize it what it's for. Otherwise, you're just raising them for them to die anyways. And they didn't have a purpose. And the purpose is to feed their family. And so that stuck with me. And it still sticks with me today that I'm like, they're not going to live much longer. Why not use them to feed my family? I know exactly where they came from. And so that shift really helped knowing, what we're doing and why we're doing it. And at processing day, we always have respect and gratitude for those birds because we're just grateful for what they're doing. And we're grateful to be a part of it. Yes, there is a replay. You will get the replay. That question just popped up. So really thinking about that helped me shift my mindset into being able to raise and be a part of the process. Do you have any thoughts on that? You kind of grew up with this lifestyle, so it wasn't as
Yeah, I just was like, this is what animals are raised for, they're bred for. So I've been doing it for a long time.
yeah. And I was new to it, so
Yeah.
I struggled a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Well, you just were like the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
Where I was like, grew up with, my parents raised a cow once in a while, or, bought this or that from a butcher and that kind of thing. So yeah.
So the dispatch part is an area that you're struggling with. I do want to say we have had multiple people come out. Sorry, I have a lot of kids in the background. Boys, shh. We just got new flooring and it echoes so bad now. We have people come out to the farm to help us, and I always ask them, I'm like, how are you feeling? How are you doing? And they're like, I'm a little nervous. I don't know what this is going to be involved in. And at the end of it, when I check in again, I'm like, how was it? They always say it really wasn't that bad. It really wasn't that bad. Start by watching on video and then see if you can join a process. I promise you, it really won't be that bad. So that's just to, kind of help you get over that hump. You can talk.
Okay. Well, which breed is right for you? So there's many different birds that you could process, but the three main that we're going to talk about is the Cornish Cross, a Freedom Ranger, and a red broiler. And the Cornish Cross is bred for rapid growth. It's efficient feed conversions, excellent meat yield to get those nice big breasts. It reaches the market weight quickly within 7 to 8 weeks and requires careful management due to rapid growth. So you have to really be on cue and watch that with the feed. And we do a 12 on, a 12 off after about 4 weeks. So we're not just like, because we feed at 22%. So you have to, you got to watch it.
Yeah. This is the breed that we do.
Yes.
Any breed is going to be right. Whatever breed you want for you is fine. And I want to talk about why we choose this breed specifically, mainly because of how quickly it reaches market weight. We can raise, so this year we raised the most amount of birds we've ever raised, which was 160. 40 of them went to Kay's niece, and then about 22 of them went to our students who joined our workshop. And then we put away about 90 or like 100. But we were able to raise 160 birds in about 10 weeks of time. So when you'll learn it inside the course how to plan it out, but we can raise 160 birds in the time it takes to raise the next 2 birds. And when we have things going on, like canning, and we've got a lot of projects going on, we want to do this. Yeah. We want to fill our freezers and we want to be done. We don't want to linger all summer long.
That's right. We want to get done too before the hot weather, sets in. It's so much nicer to process the birds when it's not so hot outside. So we really try for kind of that late kind of spring time frame, like June, early July for us.
Yes.
Okay, here's a Freedom Ranger. So the Freedom Rangers are kind of known for their balance between, the growth and the growth rate, and they forage, act more like a laying hen. So they're kind of up and moving around. They're great for on the pasture because they will eat the bugs in the grass. One thing the Cornish Cross really don't do, they mostly just kind of lay there in the grass. You think they've eaten it, but they really are not eating a lot of it. And the Freedom Ranger is typically about 9 to 11 weeks to process stage.
So that's where we've raised 160 in the time it takes to raise one batch of these. We've done 2.
Yeah.
But these are a great option. How long did it take to process 160 birds? Well, we do it in batches.
Yeah.
So we did
2 batches of 80. Yeah.
Yeah, but we did we did classes, and so it took a lot longer because we were teaching. However, it would probably take like maybe 2 hours.
Yeah,
do 80.
We do 60 birds in about an hour and a half. So
yeah, about 2 hours.
Yeah. And then you've got your red broilers or the big reds, and these ones have the nice meaty thighs and legs, which might be something that you like, better. And again, they're more up and foraging. they love to, forage and do the grass. But they're, again, 9 to 12 weeks in market rate to reach their market weight.
Yeah, these are very similar to the Freedom
Yeah.
Rangers.
Yeah.
Did you already say that?
Yeah.
And there's multiple breed types as well. These are the three main common ones. If you're like, oh, I want something different,
Yeah.
you just go to a hatchery and they have all the birds listed that they sell that you can look into. Like I said, these are the main common ones. And so that's just kind of what we wanted to focus on. And again, we raise the Cornish cross only. We don't really have the desire to raise the other birds. A lot of people don't like the Cornish cross because they don't like how it's not acting like a regular chicken. They like, but we don't have layers, so we don't really care.
Yeah.
Kind of just our, our view on it. We're like, whatever, we're just putting them in the freezer. We don't care if they walk around. Okay, so we also want to talk about a brooder setup because setup is going to be key in when you can get started and if you can get started. So this is our brooder right here. A few things to note is it needs to be enclosed because your chicks need to stay near the heat lamp. It's how they stay warm. They can't do it on their own. They need to be by the food and they need to be by the water. So basically you're just kind of keeping them enclosed in there and just making sure they're, they've got space to roam a little bit. You need to make sure that your temperatures are correct. The number one cause of chick death is improper brooder temperatures. And so it needs to stay about 95 degrees to start, and then it goes down about 5 degrees each week until they're outside. And again, you're doing it in the summer, so it's going to be warmer that they can manage. So you do want to make sure it's not too crowded. This is discussed in depth inside the course, but you don't just pick a number for how many you want to raise. You have to measure your space and figure out how many you can raise. They have to be able to fit inside the space. So you're not going to raise 200 birds and put them all in that brooder. You're going to have multiple brooders to make sure that you're raising the right amount. So you can set up the brooder anywhere, as long as they have their needs met by the food, water, and heat. They do grow fast. You'd be surprised at how fast they grow, and you need to plan for expanding quickly. So if you can see in this picture, it's not the best picture, but we have a piece of plywood up to make the brooder small. At about 2 weeks, would you say, you move that and they expand into the whole barn. I think I have a picture showing that later in another slide. But they expand quickly. So you're going to want to have your space set up before the chicks arrive, and you already need to have your second space prepared because they're growing so fast and time just flies. Yeah. I forgot to turn my light on. Can you see me? Some people raise them in a stock tank, in like a plastic pool.
Yep.
Anywhere you can raise them as long as they have heat,
water and food.
So we just kind of talked about this. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So after each week, after, they're growing, they're still in the brooder, we raise the waters and the feeders up so that they can learn to stretch these neck muscles and helps them just become strong and activate the muscles. And then depending on the temperatures outside, we start raising our lights up and or turning one off, depending like around 2.5 to 3 weeks old.
Yeah, just depending on the outside temperature. So just watch those birds if they're huddling together.
Yeah. And we teach that again, all inside the course. It is fairly simple to raise them though. Okay, so here's the next picture. So this you can see right here, our little, on the left side, you can see where the light is glowing and the water, that ball was. And then we opened it up. So now you can see that they're bigger too, that they are roaming inside the horse stall. So you can raise them in a barn the entire time. So like Kay said, she raised them in the barn through the first 4 years.
6 years,
probably. 6 years?
Yes. Yep.
Again, it comes down to spacing, but they need about 2 square feet per space. And so at this point, we have 2 stalls. And so we'd split them in half when you were raising 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
25 each side. So.
Yeah. And then, raising them in the barn, you always supply fresh water, feed,
Yep.
new shavings.
Yep. You can have multiple feeders around, so everyone's getting a fair share.
Yep. And that's really it for raising in a barn. It's going to smell.
Yeah.
It's going to smell worse than in a tractor, but it's totally doable. And so if this is where your space, like if this is what you have for a space, like that's totally fine. If you have a garage, well, maybe not a garage, but like a barn, not necessarily this, but you can makeshift a space inside a larger space too.
Yes.
So there's a lot of options. So we finally moved to a tractor. You can talk about it.
That's the best thing ever. Get them out of that barn. But it's really nice for a few reasons. Of course, it helps with the smell. It's a little bit cleaner because you're moving them daily. So, by the end of that day, it's pretty gross in there. So you move them and they're on fresh grass for the next day. Gets them outside, gets some sunlight there. You don't need anything fancy, just something that you can house them in that you can move and predators can't get in. And then your daily care just includes feeding, watering, and moving those tractors.
The nice thing about meat birds is you don't need like roosting bars or anything. They just lay on the grass.
Yeah, they don't roost.
So this is a look inside our tractor, and it's literally their feeder and their water. That's all it is. Yeah. And they are loving life. When do you typically start raising your birds? We start in about April, May, just depending on what we have going on. Yeah. Can you answer this one?
Oh, yeah. Are predators an issue when using a chicken tractor? Well, yes, it can be. You've got to make sure your tractor is, got that hard mesh wire on it and nothing can dig underneath. Now, we have these nice heavy aluminum tractors, and we're fortunate that we have a business where we can make those. But also, if you know how to weld and you get some material, you could make these as well.
My husband's working on plans for them. We're just not ready yet because he's been.
We have never had a problem. Nothing has tried to dig or anything like that. So we've never had a problem.
Can you use electric fencing if you also have a shelter?
Yeah, electric fencing, yes.
Yeah, there are so many ways to do it.
You just have to be careful of predators coming down from the sky, I guess, right?
Yeah. It doesn't have to be fancy. You just want to keep them enclosed. A lot of people actually, I've seen this a lot. They're like, why do you keep them enclosed in there? You want these birds to be near the food. They don't move around and they don't want to wander. They want to sit by the food and they want to eat and they want to drink.
Now I'll tell you a story because we move the tractors one way and then we've got to turn and come back up the next way. And we had 3 tractors running this year and it was a lot. And so we had to move the chickens quite a ways. And they were, I don't know, they were about a week out to butcher. And they were getting tired. And so I eventually had to pick them all up and put them in a tote because they couldn't walk. They could not do it.
Yeah. So they don't want to move.
They don't want to be walking.
Just let them have their food.
Yeah. Let them eat.
They're like me. No. We have 20 acres and we're probably thinking Red Ranger's about 25.
Yeah, that's great.
That is a great starting place.
Love it.
Okay, now this is the big one that we want to talk about. Why process yourself versus the butcher? Is that due to their breeding? Yes, that is the Cornish cross, 100%. They don't want to move. Yeah. That is why people don't like them, is because they think that they should move. And I'm like, well, they just don't. So if you have the broilers or the Rangers, they're going to be a lot more mobile and they can have a little bit of space. This is my husband, Bryce. He does the dispatching, so he doesn't know I used his picture in here, but so we want you to learn to process yourself because it gives you the skills for self-sufficiency. Your own timing and your own schedule, which is huge because let's just kind of break it down a little bit. If you're renting equipment, you've got to figure out a rental date and you got to get it that date. So then you book it. Then you have to order your chicks and you have to make sure that you order them far enough in advance to line up on your processing day because you don't want to do it too early because then you're going to have tiny birds and you don't want to do it too late because then your birds are dying off. So you really have that sweet spot with your process. And so figuring out those dates are key. Also with butchers,
Noah, go take it to the living room. Take it to the living room.
sorry.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Also with a butcher, they bail on you
Yeah, they
more
can.
often than not.
Their scalders, go. That happened to a lady last year. She had 200 birds she wanted to butcher. We were just like, oh, I don't know if we can do that.
I'm so sorry. You can keep talking.
Yeah. Anyway, so it all comes down to a calendar, basically. And that's what I do, and we'll let you know that more in the course, but you just pick your dates and you've got to get all these things lined up. So, and if you can do all this stuff yourself, there's less room for error. It's easier, and it's really easier than you think. It really is.
It really is.
Yeah.
Did we cover everything? Sorry.
I think so.
I had to tend to my children. I called a babysitter, but she was working, so it didn't help me out any. Okay, does that answer questions about why process yourself versus butcher?
I think so.
Okay. How much? Okay, let's go back. How much does processing stuff cost?
To buy it yourself?
You bought
Mhm.
equipment
Yeah.
from Featherman,
Mhm.
and we bought a bundle,
Yeah.
so it had everything,
Mhm.
and I think it's currently going for like $5,000 to $7,000.
Yeah.
It's a lot. There are renting options available, and this is what we recommend. Rent first.
Yeah.
Commit yourself to the lifestyle.
Mhm.
Rent for a few years, even if it is kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
We teach you how to plan it, so it's not a big deal. If once you're committed, I mean, we rented for what, 6 years? You said?
Oh yeah.
6 years, and then we bought our own because we knew we were committed,
Yeah.
and the investment was worth it.
Mhm.
And start
Yeah.
saving your money. If you know you like it and you know you want to do it every, save a little bit each
Yeah.
year.
Yeah.
It's worth it because we don't rely on anybody else but ourselves.
Yeah.
And with how many birds we do, it's so much easier for that. But it's an investment for sure. Okay. So the biggest mistake that we see new chicken owners make is not planning. There is so much planning and date tracking to raising and processing. And if you don't do it right, you ultimately lose time, you lose your money, and you lose your birds. We see it way too often. And unfortunately with meat birds, you don't have time to hold off on your butcher date. Butchers are almost always booked out.
Yeah.
We called for our pigs a year in advance.
Mhm.
And you're like, hey, I want to get our pigs on the schedule for June. And it was like April. And she's like, I don't have anything open until June of 2022, because this was 2021. And she's like, oh yeah, I want it for June 2022. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're booked out a year.
Yeah.
Another thing too is most butchers
Don't do chickens.
don't do chickens.
You got to find those just couple people that do it. We have a young man that used to date Holly, and he's going up and down the I-5 corridor processing birds for people. He's just kind of like a one-man show. I think he takes his girlfriend with him sometimes, but
My boys are going to do that.
yeah, he does it that way. I mean, that's someone you could look for as well to do that.
But the point is, we see so many people like, I'm going to do meat birds.
Yeah.
And they get them. And then they call the butcher and they're like, hey, I need to get. Okay, well, we don't have space until a year. And now you're stuck with these birds and no plan and no way to get them processed. And they're going to die. So all of that time you spent raising them, all of that money you put in to ultimately die, it doesn't have to be that way if you learn to plan it. And I am trying to stress that so much because people are like, oh, I'm just going to get a goat, or, that's fine. They're not like butchering the goat.
Yeah.
So there's just a lot of things that go into it beforehand. And that's what we want to stress. Well, that's what we want to stress, is that you are on such a short timeline and it goes so fast, but your day comes and goes and faster than you can even blink and faster than you have time to prepare.
Yeah.
So to not make these common mistakes, new owners need to implement some sort of education. So the way we learned to do this was mainly trial and error with years of mistakes, because there just wasn't information on this topic. And we've made the mistakes so you don't have to. Also, look at that big old bird, case. That's a turkey. Don't be scared. They don't get that big. That's a turkey. And that's the turkey too. Yeah. So the one thing that we want you to take away from this masterclass is to learn how to get started with the meat birds and to think through a few things. But we also want to help you that you realize that you can do this and that you can continue to do it year after year. I mean, we're 10 years in and we're not stopping.
No.
And even my husband was like, if we, do you want to continue this? Like, years down the road? I'm like, yeah, I do. And he's like, okay, good. Me too. Like, yeah, we're doing it for life.
Great.
So you can get to that point too. So to start raising and processing meat birds yourself, to fill your family, to fill your freezers and feed your family, you can do two things. You can try and learn from different websites and piece the information together, or you can learn from us in our step-by-step program called Farm to Freezer, the complete guide to raising and processing meat birds. So we want to introduce it to you a little bit, and then we'll get into any other questions you have about raising the chickens.
Yeah.
So it's a 4-week or less course if you watch it quickly. It's an online course that teaches you how to successfully raise and process them right in your own backyard. So it's simple yet effective videos. Will give you our fail-proof methods that you need to know to raise and process yourself. So you'll be taught how to raise the chickens week by week. So you know exactly what to do, what should be happening, and then how to manage anything that's needed that comes up. Like if you have chick death, what's going on, and kind of how to diagnose those types of things. We have detailed videos of the process teaching you why we do it the way we do, what we are doing, and how to do it. So we saw that Kay's video that she learned from was lacking so much. And so we're filling in those gaps. And it is, I put it together. It is so in depth and so detailed. You're going to get the next best thing besides actually doing it on our farm. So all you need to be successful is the space to raise birds, a space to process them, access to equipment, whether you rent or purchase, and the desire to become more self-sustainable and to put in the work. It's work.
Yeah, it's work.
But there's
satisfying.
It's so satisfying. Look at all those chickens we have. We're so happy. So the course is all of our knowledge on raising and processing meat birds compiled into easy step-by-step video lessons. It's simple to understand, and then it's easy to apply it to practical situations. We learned online, so we know that you can learn online too. And so I don't want that to be a fear of like, oh, I can't watch a video. You can, because we did it on a poorly made video. So the course is not us raising the chickens for you. It's not a place to share your chicken that you raised with others. Like you're not going to, raise it and then start selling it in our course. That's, it's not for that. But you have to put in the work. But once you do, your freezers and your family will thank you. So that's a cute little picture of my kids. They had to put all the meat away. And that's just one of our 6 freezers. We have a lot. So the biggest thing is our course is designed to teach you what of the process and how to do it. And it prepares you before you're ready to raise chickens. I don't know. We want you to we have a situation in the bathroom. Kay's going to take care of that. I'm so sorry. Real life. We want you to become more self-sufficient and make raising chickens a part of your lifestyle the way it is for us. One thing that we're seeing a lot in our DMs that I want to talk about is the preparing. So if this we launched this course specifically at the end of the season. So you have 9 to 10 months to prepare and learn now before getting the birds. I actually took an online course on how to create an online course. And what I wish I did was had more time before actually putting into action to watch the course and absorb it all in, and then watch it again, take notes, map out how I want to do things and how I want to plan things. And so that is what we're recommending to you guys is to learn everything you can now, absorb it in, put it into action. Plan it out and then you put it into action. Sorry. The planning is crucial, and that's what we were stressing earlier. So that is what we are designed, like what we designed to teach you. So let's take a look inside the course really quick. It has 4 modules, and these are the video lessons that we teach inside each module. So there's a good chunk of today, strictly from the course, Why We Raise Chickens, mindset to raising them, which breed is right for you, where to we didn't talk about where to purchase, but tractor and pasture raising and barn raising. We also talk about where to purchase them, how many birds you should raise, the supplies needed for raising with links to everything, planning to sell and what you need to know, because a lot of people sell and like to raise them to sell. We don't, but you totally can. And then the best months to raise chickens, because there is a season and why that's important. So that's all what's discussed in module 1. In module 2, we talk about the raising week by week. So we have our brooder set up. We have like pasty butt and ascites. It's a disease that chickens can get. The prevention and treatment for that, how to care for them during the first week, how to raise them during the second week, what they need, how to raise them in the third week, how to move them from the brooder to the pasture, kind of like how we do that. And then what it goes into raising them for weeks 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then again, the diseases that you may encounter. Module 3, this is the most important one if you are wanting to learn to process yourself. So we teach you how to prepare for the process, your supplies and equipment, the setup, processing day, how to gather the birds, how to put them into the cones, how to dispatch them, proper scalding, how to pluck, eviscerating, that's what Kay does when she cleans out the bird, how to clean it, and the correct chilling methods and times for that. And then module 4, we teach you how to break down the bird. So if you don't want to keep it whole, we teach you how to break it into parts, how to package a whole bird, how to separate and preserve the parts. We prefer to do like 6 thighs, 6 legs, 3 breasts, and a whole bunch of wings together. And we talk about why we do it that way, and then freezer storage ideas as well. So those are the 4 modules, and those are each individual video. They all range from like 2 to 12 minutes long. So they're really not super long. Like you're going to be putting away, like I need to sit here and watch an hour's worth of stuff. Like 1 to 2 a day, absorb it in, take notes, make a plan with your husband. It is 100% doable. So the question isn't, can you raise chickens? It's how many years can you raise them and fill your freezers year after year? So whether you're raising chickens in the spring or if this is your 2, 3, 5-year plan, the program can help prepare you. We would love to have you inside of it if you feel that this is right for you. Now we're going to open it up for questions either about raising chickens or our program. And then don't forget the first 10 people to join will get that group Zoom call, and we can kind of help work through everything and help get you set up if you need help with that. So a couple of questions that we missed. Nona did the clap at him. Okay, so do you prefer to leave the birds whole or part out, also canned or freezer? Okay, so we do not almost ever leave them whole because we just don't eat them that way. One thing I'm going to do, if you are interested in the course, I have it right here. You can enroll by clicking that button right there, and it'll take you right there and you can sign up. So can everybody see that? Let me know if you can see that. It should be just kind of on the side. So we part them out because we eat them that way. If we want to eat like a whole chicken, we just pull out legs and thighs. Yeah, it's just how we eat them.
Yeah.
But you can totally do it full.
Yep.
Full. And then we did have some smaller ones this year and we spatchcocked them.
Yeah.
We have canned chickens
Mhm.
before.
Yep.
But we prefer the freezer
Mhm.
because it's how we eat it.
Yeah.
Do we raise turkey too?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, we do turkeys.
We do turkeys.
Turkeys we raise for ground turkey.
Yes.
We don't really keep a whole turkeys around to have a turkey dinner, but we raise those turkeys and we grind up the breasts and the thigh. The wings went into a big pot for some stock, and the legs we kept for crab bait.
Yes.
We crab out here, so
Yeah. We do not have turkeys inside the course right now because we did not raise them this year, but I think we're raising them next year.
and we can add it.
So we will be adding it as we are raising them. So we like to kind of film and show that. So do you ever wonder about sanitation when renting equipment?
No, because we always clean it. Well, in our co-op, it always had to be returned very clean, or they would fine you pretty much. And then also the tables, I always clean those in the morning anyways, and sanitize everything. So
Yes.
and the scalder's hot. You don't really need to worry about that.
But we do clean it out.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, we clean it. Yeah.
How many freezers do you have?
1,
1,
2, 3, 4, 5,
6, 7, 8.
Yeah,
8
something like that.
for all of our stuff,
It's
not
for
just for
everything,
chickens.
yeah. One freezer is just for apple cider.
Yeah. One freezer has a dead coyote in it from my husband. So does the in-person course that you offer include the same detailed instructions as the online course, like the prep work? Yes. So everything, it's the same.
Yeah.
Because processing them
that
is
you're
the
there.
same. It's just that you're there.
Hands-on.
Yeah. But you can totally learn online because it's a lot for people to come out. But we do offer that. We did 3 classes this year. I think next year we're only going to offer 1, and it's going to be extremely limited because it is a lot of work behind the scenes and it makes for really, really, really long days on our part. And so we have other things that we need to do. And now that we have the online course and we know people can learn via that way, that's kind of the way we want to go with that. So what do you think is typical for renting equipment as far as cost?
I don't know. Like I said, we were in a co-op and it was $10 to join the co-op, and then we just rented it for $5. But I think, didn't somebody say you could rent it for like $100? I say someone in one of our classes said, somewhere here you can rent it for like $100. I don't think it's that expensive. Yeah.
Join some poultry groups for your area and see if people rent it out.
Yeah.
We would like to rent it out, but also, and this is the unfortunate thing, is people don't treat your stuff well. And so it is expensive equipment that we don't want damaged.
And that's one reason we did get our own, is because people would mess with the scalder, and you're not supposed to really touch that thermostat, and people would. And then, you got a hot scald or it's not hot enough. So
yeah.
My husband said, we're getting our own. So we did.
And it's been the best.
Yeah.
Why are you keeping a dead coyote? Let me ask my husband. I have no idea.
I think he wants to skin it.
Yeah. What do you want to do with the blood what do you do with the blood and discards? So there's lots of things that you can do with it, but we just mix it inside our compost pile.
The discarded stuff, we just
throw it away.
Garbage, yeah. A lot of people like to compost it. They'll compost the feathers, all that stuff, but we just don't do that. We'll mix the blood into our compost. It's great nitrogen, but that's about it. Everything else gets thrown away.
Yeah, and then if you want to keep like the livers and the hearts, like you can totally do
the
that.
Feet, carcasses. If you're parting them out, carcasses you can freeze and use for stock later down the road in the wintertime when you have more time.
Yes, you can use the whole bird.
Yes, exactly.
So, all right. Is there any other questions that you may have? Okay. If this is if you feel like our online course would be a great match for you, we still have a few spots left to do the Zoom call where we just kind of chat and walk you through, any questions that you may have, helping you get started. You can still join us. The course is open until Sunday evening. So if you need to chat with your husband, like your wife, what looks like mostly women are on here, whoever you need to chat with, it'll be available until Sunday. But that is it. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any questions, send us an email, DM on Instagram. We're happy to help. We want this, we want you to be successful, and we want the course to be right for you. And so we can help you figure out if that is. So thank you, and we will see you at another time. Bye.
Bye.